New York Comic-Con Star Treks. It's okay. It's fine. And we don't know what's coming anyway. Today on episode, 420 of Trekland Tuesdays Live, I wish, with Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek. That's me, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47, and also the home of Trekland Treks. Did a tour last weekend, a couple of weekends ago, have another one coming up. You can take your own customized away mission here. One of the more fun aspects of the Trekland Empire is seeing people take their own customized away mission that we've worked out together. And guess what? If you need something bigger than a day tour, well, Geek Nation Tours is back. I'll be leading this again for the first time in 10 years. We're bringing back the LA to Vegas multi-day big Star Trek locations tour the week before Star Trek Las Vegas next year. You don't have to go to Vegas, but that's where we end up. You want to check it all out at geeknationtours.com. Just find the Star Trek tour and check it out. That's coming too. Or if the day tour is more your style, I'm your guy. We'll keep it simple here in LA. And speaking of keeping it simple, welcome back. It's another Tuesday here for Trekland Tuesdays Live. Boy, I've been doing this for over 8 years. Kind of crazy, since 2017. This is episode 420. It's not just 420 for the you-know-what. I mean, like, I wish. We're in between second opinions right now. I think we'll wrap up con when it's done that way. I'm waiting to see how the scouts are coming. But I guess basically this is kind of a low ebb tide here. We're heading into the holidays, if you include Halloween as a holiday. And belated happy Thanksgiving to all our Canadian friends, by the way, from last Monday. Monday's the day I recorded, first time in ages, but recorded with our good friend Sean Farrick over at Trek Culture. So check that out. That just dropped today, I think. Yeah. I mean, come on. The big news-ish is right now that, aside from the Geek Nation Tours tour coming out, which is what we also talked with Sean about, but I guess everybody in Trek world is talking, and why not, about the news coming out of New York Comic-Con. Kind of finally, sort of what we'd been waiting for all these weeks, because San Diego seemed a little too early. Nothing was going to be said officially at Vegas, since Vegas isn't licensed, but the Comic-Cons, they're not licensed shows by a studio, obviously, but they're the big boy marketplaces where people come in to splash their headlines and drop their news, and count on it being covered worldwide by all the mainstream press, much less the fandom and the genre press and media. So, July was a little too early for what they wanted to dish out here. But there you go. Sure, Strange New Worlds had their panel, had their 4th season trailer. I was kind of thrilled to see a little Star Trek back in my Star Trek. Now, before you start talking, before everybody goes down the tangent that mostly well-received trailer, which seemed like a Star Trek episode with some danger and some working together and a little bit of humor between the lines, some high stakes, some exploring, a little bit of heroics even, all in that mix. Now, whether that's the exact opening seconds of the debut episode, the premiere for season 4, or whether it's a little bit into it, we don't know. Remember, can you believe it? It was just a year ago, New York Comic-Con, that we got that teaser for 4.5 Vulcans, which was funky and funny. And little did we know, that's kind of the tone of 3/4 of the whole season. But also, that was not the opening scenes of the premiere. Obviously, they didn't promise as such, because we knew there was a cliffhanger to come, right? But it wound up, even of its episode of 4.5 Vulcans, it wound up being after the first 2 or 3 minutes of exposition. So did this jump right in? It seemed kind of abrupt, but then again, it's Star Trek, so maybe they jump in on the run, right? There's no setup. So, Strange New Worlds, we kind of know the end game here. Just like Pike, we know the way this is all going to end. They'll have these 10 episodes, and then they'll have that they're in the middle of no, they're done. Then they'll have the 6 after that. Or are they done? But we know there's these 10, 6 more, and that's all she wrote of what used to be the wonder child of the Star Trek franchise, the modern Star Trek franchise. No, I think, they split the time as has happened in the past. I think most of the eyeballs are watching what's going on with Starfleet Academy. Now, over on my Twitter, at Larry Nemecek, yes, I still have Twitter. For one thing, Blue Sky doesn't have some features that Twitter still does, and I'm hoping the toxic balance has kind of caught itself a little bit. Of course, it's not a big election year, so we'll see how that goes. But if you're on Twitter still and can get to my site there, and I will probably add this to Instagram as soon as I can. But I threw this up very quickly. Simple question: are you excited? Are you excited for Starfleet Academy, Trek folk? And that just a little bit ago, there's already been over 20 people vote on it. That's Twitter. It's 3-1. Yes. I had yes, no, I'm going to wait and see, and a meh. So it's like 3-1 yes right now. But go over there and vote. Let yourself be known if you're so inclined. That's my Larry Nemecek Twitter. And of course, if you're not following me, I will still take new follows on Twitter, especially if you're an actual organic person. What a concept. No, I think you can't help but feel a little like regroupy after that season 3 of Starfleet Academy, Strange New Worlds. And Starfleet Academy is what people hopefully feel like there's a little bit of a blank slate about. And we've had a teaser. Now we've had an official trailer. You should know, and this has been coming out, but I don't think it's sunk in all the way. There is an aspect of StarTrek.com, obviously the original site, that I was once very much a part of, that I once wrote the original databases when they had databases, before obviously Memory Alpha took off because it was volunteer passion versus what are they going to pay on a payroll. StarTrek.com has a section that you can go and take your own Starfleet tour. Basically, it's interesting because they have character cards. It's really interesting. There's even something that I've heard, didn't see any references to, but maybe there's a Horta or some kind of a really non-organic organic life form that's listed down among the heroes, down with Kirk and Cisco and Janeway and everybody. So we'll see what happens with that. Most of them are Starfleet alumni. Obviously, Burnham is not a Starfleet Academy alumnus. She went to Vulcan Science Academy, boy howdy. And there's nothing we hate more than people who changed their college transcripts. But anyway, if you go to StarTrek.com, it's a interactive section. It's called Visit the Campus, and it's an interactive portal. You can go there, meet the faculty, and all that. It's got some fun stuff in it. Now, what's interesting is for New York Comic Con, as opposed to San Diego, which was blandly promoting just Paramount Plus with some really bland stuff. It was not all Star Trek, and what Star Trek they had was really limited. Well, now you get it. It was a matter of timing. They went all in on Starfleet Academy as the new kid on the block with their floor. I mean, it wasn't there, but looking at the reporting, there was an interactive booth. You make your own card. You could do some stuff. You could have some fun, but it was all about big time promoting Starfleet Academy. There were recreated sections. It was a big walkthrough. It was a big presence for one of the main entrances to the Javits Center. So they're making a big splash. Of course, a lot of that is it's just closer to debut time. The trailers, the promos have caught up. Now, look, there is a whole slew of reporting. There's also a whole slew of characters and new actors, and we're still getting our heads around them. I saw some of them live at San Diego. There were a lot more on stage here. Academy's got some faces that you do know, and this is what gets me. Say what you will about the reaction to all of Kurtzman Trek, but I'd be silly if I'm going to try to duplicate all the hardcore news reporting, the fanish media, and also the mainstream media. You can find all the stories, the quotes, what Holly Hunter is saying, what Paul Giamatti is saying, what all the new cadet kids are saying, all of that. More and more is coming out. I don't know. I think you're with me. This whole thing about we're still learning the names, right? Tripping over some of this. So many names. So many species. And one thing that's interesting, a couple of things have been said that I am looking forward to about the series. One, couple of years ago, when people were starting to pull their hair out over the magic future tech unexplained of discovery, why are detached nacelles so cool and more powerful and not more vulnerable to attack? Why? What are the rules of protomatter aside from just being cool and magic-y looking? That's what drove a lot of people crazy as discovery kind of oozed its way along still. And Alex Kurtzman promised Starfleet Academy would start to lay the future technology of the future period, the 800 years to 32nd century. So one thing is I want to start seeing if we indeed have some boundaries. I'm not expecting a tech manual for the 32nd century. I'm not expecting a good old tech guide to nail all this down in advance so that the writers have it ready. That doesn't seem to be the way of the modern era, sadly. Not my advice, but I'm looking forward to at least having some of that explained and nailed down. But there also has been a trend, and part of this, I think, is to distinguish this whole 800 years in the future. Yeah, we saw it with Discovery. I think they did take advantage of that to a point. You found out that Vulcan and Romulus finally did reconcile. Navarre, right? Even going back to old fan fiction to find the name Navarre as a union. You saw what happened when United Earth. The humans who wanted to stay open-minded and stay with the Federation and not be fearful did so. And the rest of the Earth that stayed behind, fearful and closed in and xenophobic, got a little reactionary. It's almost like the worst impulses of humanity, if you know what I mean, went dark and had to kind of be slapped around and shown how silly they were. And then they saw the light and kind of inched back, obviously, and rejoined. So they had some little, Trill. We found out what was going on. So nothing with Klingons. We've got a Klingon character here. Okay, yay. But again, everything is 800 years in the future. A lot of fans who wanted to enjoy this future setting just wanted to know, can we have some catch-ups? Can we know what's happened? 800 years is a long time. And 1 or 2 or 3 episodes aren't going to sketch in 800 years. Now, you had the burn 120, 140 years before this. They're recovering from that with Discovery, and this is just adding on to that. They're going to reopen Starfleet Academy. It's been gone for, a century and a half. And take that and run with it. If you're going to establish this, then okay. If you're going to establish the Romulan supernova, no matter what you thought of the idea at the time, okay, well then take it and run with it and have some ripple effects from that. Okay, thank you, Picard. Take it and run with it. You're not going to fill in 800 years all at once. You don't want to fill it. Have some fun with that. But give the 32nd century some meaning. Don't just have it be what future tech can we jump in. Now, I'm saying all this. Good Lord. They've shot the seasons. They've written both seasons. They're shooting. They're wrapping up. So it's like nothing I'm going to say or anybody else right now is going to make a difference. Maybe in the final tweakings of the second season. But if you're going to go there, then not my choice. But if you're going to go there, embrace it. Don't namby-pamby. Don't act like it's just wallpaper. Embrace the century. Embrace that. So one of the things they seem to have done is say, well, we've only had, even Kirk into Picard, we've only had a couple of 100 years of intergalactic intermingling, of intergalactic warp speed travel. And jumping into the Delta Quadrant and the Gamma Quadrant for that matter. That's just the initial stirs of the mixing bowl. 800 years is a long time to be bopping around, whatever propulsion it is, whatever the scale of travel and exploration, whatever the known space line is, however expanded it was, in Archer's time, in Kirk's time, in Picard's time. Well, where we are 800 years from now. Are we out of the galaxy? Are we bridging galaxies yet? Talk about the Kelvin timeline. I mean, the original Kelvins. No, all of that's out there. But one of the ways they're addressing that is, and this has been talked about, is having a lot more intermingling of the species. A lot, it's like, no, people don't think so much about and take this for what you want to use as representation and metaphor and allegory. Our big bad villain here is a Tellarite Klingon hybrid. Our academy, they say commandant, whatever, she's at least in charge of the gem drills, is a Jem'Hadar hybrid. You're seeing a lot of that. If you go down the list of all the cadet characters, a lot of them are interspecies marriage. So we're way past the point. Science has caught the point. If you even wanted to debate, if you still want to go back and debate Spock being Vulcan and human, or B'Elanna being Klingon and human, if you want to go back and debate the science of all of that, any of the hybrid species, or just say, well, it's humans that are the most adaptable. Well, some of these, we're seeing that interspecies marriage and offspring, procreation. A lot of these characters are reflecting different cultures. Now, is that going to be part of their makeup? Is this first generation in all these cases? 800 years is a long time for everybody to be comfortable with each other, and for science, reproductive science, to catch up, to do whatever you want to do, and people to live that way. We've had a century and a half of the burn, and all these people's lifespans seem to be since the burn. Is that an output? Is that a butterfly effect of the burn and large-scale travel? If you can't be with the one you're with, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Thank you. Did the burn cut down travel so much that everybody just kind of had to see who they were with and get along? I don't know. This is spitballing. I hadn't even thought of that until just this second. But it's a layer, it's a factor, it's a shade of color they wanted to apparently put onto this actively to mix things up a little bit. I'm still trying to figure out how Paul Giamatti is half Klingon and half Tellarite. I don't see much of either one in anything he is. But there you go. Aside from his baldishness and the kind of stock and the pug, we'll see. I don't see a pig nose. The scoring on the faces of some of the other characters, I don't know. But one of the things that I'm hearing that I really didn't think I'd hear about, and it seems to have amplified with this trailer, which was really fascinating to watch. So no, we're not going to break down every frame of the trailer. I let all of our friends across the interwebs do that. But one thing that struck me was, even with the teaser a few weeks back, and then this actual promo feature trailer, is the cadets. And it's funny because it's harking back to the old spout off about, the Starfleet Academy idea has been around ever since Harv Bennett pitched it for the fifth original series movie, with thinking that Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are Dee and Bill and Leonard are getting too old. All of them are getting too old to play action heroes. So here's how we'll do it. We'll have them reminisce, and there'll be a framing device, and they will reminisce about being young bucks at the Academy, and young people will play them and take over. And stop me if you've heard this formula before, only we're one step in another universe, maybe. And then younger versions playing Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Uhura, on Strange New. It's only been, though, 40 years since this idea was floated. 40 years ago, the entire original cast was still with us, but they were looking as a way to do. Well, the studio didn't like it, and boy, howdy, when it leaked to fans, and gosh, I wonder who did that. Fandom was not up with recasting their heroes. If you thought the stink about Next Generation with that segment, especially zine fandom, raised a stink, how about that same time period talking about it in the movies as well? Yeah. But the big stink that was raised about doing Academy then, or even floating the idea of an Academy show as Voyager wound down, and they let it be known when Rick Berman was running the franchise, letting it be known they wanted to reboot, they wanted to be fresh. They knew that the mantle of the franchise was going to ride on the next show, Rise or Fall. And the show that turned out to be Enterprise had 2 or 3, 4 different ideas floated. There were focus groups, but one of them was a Starfleet Academy idea. Now look, in 89, in 2000, the same knock happened. What did people call it? Oh no, not Star Trek 90210. as a dig at Aaron Spelling's teenage angsty high school show, right? That started off kind of dramatic, family oriented, and then eventually within a year or two wound up all about the teenagers and these 20 somethings playing teenagers. And then, the tabloid, the National Enquirer end of the gossip journalism. And this was before social media, kids. But how that all turned to, what's Tori Spelling doing now? Who's in, who's out, who's in the show, whatever. It was a launch pad for some careers, some not so much. But it was just so 90s bad Hollywood filter on teenagers in LA, in Beverly Hills. Star Trek didn't want any part of that. Most of fandom. No Star Trek 90210. And neither idea went anywhere, obviously. So we fast forward now to Kurtzman getting his contract, Alex, and all the ideas that were floated a year or so into Discovery, right? Section 31. Nothing was really put out there, but things were hinted at. And then some things were kind of hinted at more strongly than others. Then Anson and his Pike blew up the world with season 2 of Discovery, and that took center stage. That got to the head of the line, the head of the taxi takeoff on the tarmac. And one of those ideas was still a Starfleet Academy. And the generation that was dreading Star Trek 90210, a lot of it had passed on, but you still heard that raised. And my comment all along has been, in the modern age, with streaming, with a lot more care being put into these short 10-episode seasons, I think the fears that people had back in the day and back in the 80s and the early aughts, and where TV was and media and culture and pandering and writing down and the stresses of how to stay on the air, all of that, versus today, my point was, I think it's a lot better time, it's a lot less risky time to introduce an Academy format now than then. I could totally see everything being spellingized. I could totally see it being Star Trek 90210. Even 10, 15 years later, I thought it was too early. The temptations and the media and the stress of business and all of that. Today, not so much. Now, you might disagree, but I really haven't heard. It's not just a generational thing. I've heard generic worries about, and this is what I'm getting to, teen angst, right? Oh, we don't have that many Star Treks. We don't need this for our, okay. So when the idea of Starfleet Academy came up, for real this time, apparently on the launching pad, I heard a little bit of the old 90210 murmuring. Not a lot, though. How about you? What did you hear out there? Were you thinking that maybe the time was ripe? Did you think about it at all? Because any concerns that I had at the beginning, what did we start to hear? The minute we heard that there was an Academy premise, what did we hear first? As it got serious, as it got closer and closer out of the gate, where they made decisions, we're going to have Holly Hunter play the Academy. Holly Hunter, okay. Paul Giamatti gets his lifelong wish to be in Star Trek and even play at least halfway a Klingon. Before you saw and heard about any of the closely guarded, may I say, cadets, character bios, and the actors playing them, before you got into any of that, we knew that, Bob Picardo was bringing back the EMH Doctor, 800 years, the original Doctor file running 800 years later. Tig Notaro is going to be Jet Reno. Apparently Mary Wiseman, maybe not as much now, is going to be Tilly. Who else am I leaving out? Dadmiral Odette Fair is going to be Vance in at least some segments, right? So they immediately, and maybe that's easiest, they immediately kind of trot out who you might see. And then we finally did get the kids. And there's, okay, fine. They all look adorable and interesting. And as of San Diego, you started getting backstories and people having their own, what's driving, motivating them and whatever. You've got the search for the lost mother now. You've got the Klingon finding his way. All of this against a backdrop of 800 years in the future. All of us sitting here going, oh, Klingons, oh, Tellarites, oh, these new races. It's 800 years, guys. Whatever little crumbs you picked up from Discovery, what they doled out, it was mainly about Vulcans, Romulans, Trill. We didn't get a lot. We saw some other overlapping races. President Rillick was a Cardassian Bajoran human. That kind of set the tone for this. That you got to think out of the box after 800 years. People are a little more open-minded, or maybe it was just about the burn and where things were for the last 100 years, but even before that. So worry about the technology updating enough in our real time 10 years, 20 years to show how to spring ahead that far and differentiate it from even the 24th century tech into creeping into the 25th. But some of this is the social, cultural, that goes along with that. What's the spread of colonization? What's the spread of just making routine travel and mixing and populating? What does that look like? And then you interrupt it with the burn. But, there was 650-ish years, over 6 centuries before the burn of this gradual. Was it just a gradual? Were there just still gradual adversarial conflicts? You got the Tholians and the Breen over there. And, well, the Breen still there at the end of Discovery even. So you had that to play with. But what's funny is just since this promo trailer came out and we saw the cadets, being older teenagers, I've started to hear the old 90210, 90210. And I just want to say, guys, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to have to let the cadets be cadets. The difference is the whole damn show going to be about them? Is it going to go all in Tori Spelling 90210 here? Or do you have enough of these adult legacy characters who are parts of their lives and their goals and their ambitions, much less interacting with each other? Are there enough of them to offset your fear? Very cool Academy ship. Again, we're going to blow things up. It's going to be based in San Francisco, but you've had 100 and something years. You had Earth saying no thank you to anything Federation, anything xenophobic or multiphobic, or multi-xeno. What's the word there? Remember, the welcome mat was not out at Earth up until just recently. So there were no facilities. So you had the independent Academy kind of tucked into Starfleet, tucked into a Federation HQ floating station. No Academy, no actual Academy. You had the beginnings of a startup, right? The episode with Tilly and her startup cadets, really green out of the gate and the process and whatever. But now we're back on Earth. We've got the campus reestablished and you've got this USS Athena. So you've got ship tech, you've got ship porn to explore. 32nd century. do the Athenas and the cells? I don't know. I haven't sat down and done the frame breakdown. You've got all the futuristic stuff to play with, but at the same time, you've got a ton of cadets here. It'll be interesting. These sets are kind of amazing. The stand-up pop-up at New York Comic-Con, there's a science botany lab that's part of this huge big set they've spent that's unlike anything else they've done before for a Trek. It's not just there's ship sets, but the whole thing is not about corridors and where's the transporter room and where's engineering. There's some of that, but there's a lot more beyond that. And you had some of those experiences reflected in the pop-up, in the floor, in the exhibit hall booth for Paramount Plus for Strange New at New York Comic-Con. So that wasn't going to happen in the summer. They had to wait for the timings to catch up. So, okay, too bad you didn't have New York's exhibit back in July. That would have been awesome. But it was too much, too fast, too soon. I had to wait. Okay, fine. I hope, is that going to make the rounds next spring? Will it show up on the other end of the cycle? Will it be up for July? We'll see. That's a long ways away. So, yeah. So the overlapping species, these 800 years, I see the threads to play with if they will just use the universe of this century and really get in and wallow around in it and use it. There might be, I know you're worried, some people worried about the teen angst. Well, you've had it, well, everybody's coupling up. Well, that's going to happen. They're healthy, hopefully healthy young species. Apparently species have been overreaching, over mixing. Apparently a lot of those kind of barriers and thoughts are down, which again plays into where our mindset is right now. So some of that may be beyond. We'll see where the hopefully really honest drama in their young lives comes from. Some of it's eternal. They're being driven by parents. They're being driven away from parents. Parental, their bigger goals in life has something to do with trauma they've been through. And the Sam hologram character, Karis Brooks's character, look, I can actually say one, is going to be intriguing too. In the fact that you've got Picardo's original EMH there is going to be interesting. But yeah. Keeping the species in their boxes, that's so 24th century. So we'll see. Now keeping other things like in your pants, we'll see how that goes. But I really don't think that's going to be an issue. We'll see. I'm just going on the vibe and what we've seen. You're going to expect some of it, but the cast is balanced out enough with some overarching themes and some overarching drives and goals and motivations and what's at stake for people. And we know it's not going to be stuck in San Francisco. The whole thing about getting out and getting to the frontier, the border. What are the crises left? You just had a whole thing with the Breen. Are there new big bads out there? Are the Klingons and Romulans? Oh, not Romulans. Are the Klingons and Cardassians so neighborly local space that they're not an issue? And now we're finally beyond that? Could be. But I heard the whole 90210 wave come up watching this trailer. I've seen it around, and I thought, really, gang, it could be so much worse. If an Academy show was put together in '89, a movie, much less a series, if that had been part of the '90s, I just think that the guardrails and the safeguards, not just by the producers, but the world at large, the market, the media being in flux, people being cautious now, producers, the money people, streaming pulling back. We're not in the era, obviously not the era of peak TV, peak cinematic TV anymore. Things are becoming more restrained, and Paramount itself is in flux. And that's the third part of what I'm talking about today. What you saw coming out of New York Comic Con, I think it's okay. I think it's fine, but I got to admit something. Everything already feels like short timers. We've got Strange New, its fate is known, and I'm not talking about Pike and the Telosians. You've got that. You've got, 2 seasons, 20 episodes of Academy done or soon to be done, and maybe that's it. And again, remember, everything about Alex Kurtzman is Secret Hideout. That's his contract to run the empire, to run the franchise. On the TV side, even. Apparently, it's been gray about doing movies. They've made some little footsteps, but even in the mess of Paramount the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, no one pushed that. There was always push toward the JJ side or whatever, or just independent voices coming up with the Origins movie. And we'll see what that is, but that's still not changing in the flux. But there's nothing to stop, apparently, him not being renewed as the franchise runner. But if Academy is deemed to be biggest thing since sliced bread's my tired old phrase, or even if it's not, if there's just a need to have something cover the gap until people are put in place to be the next TV showrunner, maybe it happens. Maybe it gets a 3rd season. There's nothing to stop renewing the series just because the executive producer is no longer running the franchise. Most of the time when human relationships and ego and reality are involved in business, especially business and media, those kinds of things don't happen. But then again, stranger things have happened. And timing and bridging gaps and standing up a new empire, if the focus is on movies and nothing is done on the TV side, that's enough. And we've talked about that before. I've talked about that with everybody. We talk about that all the time in the Portal 47 Ask Dr. Treks. And here, we don't know where that's going. But my big gut feeling is within a year, we'll know what the longer term, the next chapter of Star Trek's storied franchise history is. We'll get through to the 60th and there'll be a big look back. It just will be a little harder to look forward. Same way as it was, ironically, with the 50th. In 2016, we knew there was a new Trek being made, seemed to be having some birth pangs, some labor pains, but we at least knew something mysterious was coming, but not much beyond that. And it was still, again, kind of a celebration of looking backward. Plenty to celebrate. A lot of things being seen in fresh eyes, celebrating. We were barely with the understanding of how awesome DS9 and Voyager were and how they'd been under-received when they were still on linear TV versus the Netflix revolution, the bingeable revolution. And it was even creeping over to Enterprise. So it's not like it's not a new world, a new vibe, a new landscape. But we're kind of going to be in that same situation. So yeah, enjoy these. I just wonder, I just feel, I can't help but I just wonder what's coming next. Even though we've got 36 hours to see here, I already feel like my attention's on the next round. That's not to knocking these shows. I want to enjoy Academy, whether it only gets these 2 seasons or actually has a third. It'll be its own marker. We live in this era of the 10 episode seasons. They are what they are. It's what you get. We can rail about it. Maybe the world around us will evolve and we can do more than 10 episodes a season, a year apart. We'll see. We'll see what the future brings. We'll see what the new leadership at Paramount brings. We'll see what the market brings. We'll see what the culture of Earth, our Earth, brings. But for right now, I'm just sitting back, waiting for all of this to be kind of spoon-fed to me, thrown at me, knowing that a year from now, this too shall pass. Not that I don't want to enjoy it, but my curiosity is really, really, really on what turn small screen Star Trek, which is the heart and soul of Star Trek. What's going to happen to small screen Star Trek in a year? Will it be abandoned again in favor of flashier Big Brother on the big screen? Or will we keep having bridging moments? Will there be anything definite? And if it is a definite stroke, what will we think about it? Who will be doing it? What will we think about it? All questions still to be answered. All tempering the news, good as it was to see, of some of these long overdue, the ripple effects even of the COVID slowdowns, seeing what's coming up. So, yeah, I invite you. Hopefully I'll get it up on my Instagram too. But for right now, if you have Twitter access, go over to my profile and jump in and weigh in if you are excited, looking forward. That's the word I said. Are you looking forward to Starfleet Academy? Look, if you're watching us on YouTube later, I want to say welcome. We do this live on Tuesdays, 1-ish Pacific, 4-ish Eastern, and 9-ish UK time and 10-ish Central Europe. Love for you to come on and join us live. But if you're watching us later on YouTube, jump in the comments. I'm really not trying to have a gratuitous, I love Academy, I hate Academy. I don't really want to get there because I feel like we've been through all that kind of black and whiting here. We're kind of into a more nuanced place. I feel like the kids are all getting older and we don't have to go back to the basics. We've been around streaming. We've been around these series and the variety that they can offer. So I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Jump in the poll if you like. But hey, if you are watching us later, that's still up. Try to catch us live if you could sometime. But meanwhile, just a real quick reminder that yes, not to be confused, the Trekland Treks are the day tours that I offer after working it out with you, what you want to do for a day trip, 4 stops, fast food lunch in the middle of it. I concierge you, I chauffeur you. We have a blast. I'll wrangle your cosplay. I'll help you with props. I'll help you with your stuffed animals. I'll help you with your action. Whatever is making, whatever your Trek vacation entails, we'll get it done. We'll plan as much as we can ahead of time, so hopefully no LA surprises. That is a Trekland Trek. That's all year long, gang. What I'm really excited about is to bring back with my buddy Terrace the big G&T. You could even get the QR code there. The big G&T tour, multi-day, the week before August, the week before Vegas, next year, 2026. It's the 60th anniversary. People are excited for the 60th. That's cool. A lot of people weren't around for the 50th. So yay. Here's one more aspect that you can celebrate with us. Check it out, geeknationtours.com. I'll eventually have a link at my site, but we'll have actors. You saw who was in Tim Russ and Armin Sherman, Mike Westmore, Sirach, Bobby Clark. We have a couple more to announce, hopefully by the first of the year. So we're kind of celebritizing all of the stops with people tied to that stop. But to me, the tour is all about the tour and your experience being there. Finally seeing it for real. And again, it's so much more than Vasquez Rocks. That's what we do for the days. And a couple of new places that have previously been unapproachable. So check it out at geeknationtours.com. And the whole description's there. Everything is right there. This year, the Valley of Fire trip in Vegas, out to Valley of Fire, where Kirk died in Generations, that's being offered again as a single one-day too. So if you're only coming into Vegas and you just have that day ahead of time and you want to jump on with us, you can. But again, you don't have to go to the Vegas convention to take the tour. We'll wind up there unless you want to bail out on the last day or something here in LA. But you don't, it's not required, right? It's not part of that. They don't overlap. Yeah. But before I go, I got to thank all my Patreon folk. This is this month's. Thank you. Our TTLers, Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halbert Gunnjonson, Lawrence Todd, Chris Jiggins, Mitch, Keith Rombach, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, and Comedy Forecast. And then our live wires. Yep. J.R. Poole, Gary Williamson, Rob McLean, Byron Bailey, Donna S. Runyon, Brandon Coles, Dave Gregory, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Chris Garris, and Casey Shafsky. Hey, that's the $5 and the $10, folks. Very simple. Patreon.com/TreklandLive. Jump in. You can send more if you like. I appreciate the support for all of our streaming and all of our podcasting. But if you really want to jump in and do more, I'd say go and join Portal 47. We're still planning the big 10th anniversary open house. It's still not quite out of the oven, so I will make sure and let you know how soon we can announce the date and the guest. Meanwhile, it's a Tuesday, and that means it's a new Trek Files. It's a great show. Oh, it's Dr. Dave. Is he in the head? Maybe he had Dr. Dave is our guest today because we wanted to recognize it's a human achievement is sticking together. You think about a married couple for 50 years. How about a fan club with all the pressures and the ego and the trends, all the influences on any organization of people that's voluntary? Anyway, so congratulations to the United Federation of Phoenix celebrating their 50th year today as a Star Trek fan club. Sci-fi too, but still primarily science fiction and Star Trek. And looking back at a news clipping, because it's Trek Files, from 1975, and an era when Gene was doing all he could, and Dorothy, and everyone to support the fan clubs in those crazy early days. That's the Trek Files this week. It was a pleasure to have Dr. Dave on. Go and listen to it anywhere you collect fine podcasts. But thetrekfiles.com is our new home on Memory Alpha, and there's a player with the documents. Those are hard to find unless you go to our page at Memory Alpha, and all the hot links too. Check it out too. All the podcasts.roddenberry.com are awesome. You can join the Patreon and then get into the new Trekophiles. Yes, the Trekophiles has its own little live community. There's message boards amid all the Roddenberry podcast shows, and Roddenberry podcast family who have some spin-off message board areas on Discord. And on Discord is where you can pay the $1 a month Roddenberry Patreon, not mine, the minimum $1 a month for Roddenberry, join any of their groups, any of their live experiences. But of course, with me, you want to join us every other Monday at 4 Pacific for Trekophiles Tonight. So yay, the Trekophiles finally has its own Discord channel and live Discord show every other Monday at 4. We just had it this last Monday, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. And a lot of you may want to join me over there because we specialize, especially, which is what you do when you specialize, on the Trekophiles and our guests and our shows and future ideas. I love it, love it, love it. Otherwise, signing off today, just as a reminder, I'm at Larry Nemecek on Twitter, X, and Blue Sky especially. And it's Larry's Trekland on Instagram, on Facebook, and yeah, here on YouTube. Have you liked and subscribed and rang the bell? And if you really want to deep dive with me, join us in Portal 47, portal47.net. It really is a backstage insider's guide to more in-depth Trek when it comes to Star Trek. Yeah. No post-con blues because Portal 47 is like a mini-con all year long every month, including a great behind-the-scenes guest you're not going to hear from. That's going to do it for us today, gang, here on YouTube and the live recording. Look, I'm just going to say it. Until next Tuesday, stay healthy, would you please? Do all the things. Stay awoke. Check the sources. And trek well, everybody.